Welcome to the Legal View. I'm David Hogg and this is Aaron Gartland. Tonight's guest is licensed professional counselor Lynn Suggs.
And on tonight's edition of the Legal Brief, David and I are going to be discussing insurance bad faith cases.
American law is complex and not always easily understood, so a little help and advice can go a long way. The attorneys of Hogg and Gartland Law Firm in Dothan present Legal View.
The Legal View with Hogg and Gartland.
Well, Lynn, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I live in Blakely, Georgia, and I've grown up there all my life. And initially I started working in law enforcement in 1985 in Early County, and I did that for about 15 years, and then I pursued a degree in counseling.
And you're a licensed professional counselor.
I'm a LPC, a licensed professional counselor, a national certified counselor, and I have certifications in forensic counseling and child protective services as far as working with children or DHR, places that need assistance in placement of children to make sure that the home that they're going to is okay.
And your law enforcement background has helped you in your counseling duties.
Yeah, mainly because I was assigned to Department of Family and Children's Services at the time that I was working there. And so I actually interviewed the child that supposedly was either sexually assaulted or physically abused, and then I would go and locate the perpetrator and interview him and either get a statement or then we'd go through the legal process.
You also have a specialty or a focus in child custody cases, is that right?
Yeah, I have a child custody certification that allows me to go all over the United States, and let's just say that your sister could no longer care for her children because she was sick or maybe for some reason in jail or in prison, and she lived in one state and you lived in another. Well, then they could, or someone could, request my service to go to that state where you live and check your background, criminal history, any kind of work-related stuff, home life, and I would do background checks, drug screens, and talk to several people about who you really are and what kind of person you are, and if you've had children before, you would be able to tell me where and what kind of school they would go to, any type of other relationship, the kind of things. So that's fun. I get to travel a lot. I've gone to Seattle, I've gone to Canada, I've gone to Alaska, so I enjoy that.
And you testify in court a good bit too.
I've testified in Houston County and Dale County and lots of places in Georgia. So, yeah.
And tonight we wanted to talk about post-traumatic stress
Okay.
disorder. And in your counseling, you see a good bit of that?
Yeah, I work a lot with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Aaron and I do a lot of personal injury work, and of course someone who's been in an automobile accident can certainly suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. I'm probably a candidate myself from somewhere along the way.
What is post-traumatic stress disorder?
Post-traumatic stress disorder is one of the most important anxiety disorders. In mental health, we have what's called DSM-4, and you have things broken down into different axes. And Axis 1 takes care of all the mental health issues that are treatable and can be treated either with therapy or with medication or medication. And as far as anxiety disorders go, post-traumatic stress is one of those. And most people, when they hear post-traumatic stress disorder, they think Vietnam War, because that's where it first started, probably 150 years ago somewhere. Shell shock is what you hear a lot. And then as we've grown as a society and tried to figure out exactly what it is something that causes the person that witnesses something or goes through something terror, maybe feel like they are in danger of dying or that someone that they're with is in danger of dying. So we work with a lot of military people with that. Just say they come back home from Afghanistan and they're used to hearing the bombs go off. So all of a sudden they hear a car backfire Well, it automatically triggers the sensory and the memory that they had, and so they'll have a flashback. And so the flashback then helps us as counselors to determine how severe and what happened with them. And it means going back and revisiting that. As far as car accidents, it's basically the same way.
Aaron, tell us how a personal injury lawyer or wrongful death lawyer can add value to the client's case.
Basically through investigation, preparation, and evaluation. The other side is doing the same. So it's important that a client have the resources devoted to their case.
For more professional legal advice and insight, watch Legal View, Sunday nights at 10:30 on Fox 34.
Well, in the context of a car accident, suppose someone was in a car accident on a rainy day and the car slid off the road. Might you have someone who has post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of that accident, fearful to ride in a car on a rainy day, for example?
I've had one lady that actually did that. She had a wreck on the circle, and she was hit by a semi, and it was raining, and she went for 3 or 4 months, would not drive if it even looked like it was going to rain. If it was even sprinkling, she wouldn't get in her car. And also, at the same time, where she was at, and I'm not sure where where this location was, but there was a train, and so there was a train making the noise, you know, the horn blowing, and so now when and it's raining, and she's in a car, and she hears a horn blow or a train whistle, she really just kind of freezes, and she has to pull off the side of the road and wait, or, you know, call someone to come and get her. But this is something that goes on for a long period of time. It can get better, and then it can actually come back.
Well, Lynn, what are some other situations that you've experienced patients with post-traumatic stress syndrome?
Okay, let's say you have a mom that had a child that died from SIDS. And so she gets pregnant again, has another baby. That child is going to she's going to watch that child almost 24/7 up to a certain point, because she's got the fear and the anxiety that something is going to happen to that baby too. And so she may sleep with that child, or she may get up numerous times during the night and go check on that child. But that's one thing. People witnessing someone drowning is another issue. Boating, you know, any type thing that if you're on a boat and you're having a good time and someone falls overboard and drowns, then, you know, someone that is traumatized greatly by that would have problems with water sports and things.
Well, in your practice, and I guess in the profession as a whole, how do you treat that?
Well, there's several ways. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically helps us to talk about what exactly it is that happened to you and why it bothered you. Of course, why is because it scared you, major bad, and you felt fearful for yourself or for someone else. And even if you witnessed the death of someone else, then, you know, in doing the cognitive behavior therapy, you help the person learn that these things that happened, and we can't go back and change that.
Sure.
But we can go forward and try to make it better. We also use something called rational emotive therapy, where you rationalize things out, like saying, okay, if I go back to the same intersection, what's the probability that that same thing is going to happen to me again?
Sure.
It's really low. But in our mind, because we have no control over that at times, we can't really get to that. So antidepressant medication and anti-anxiety medication is used in conjunction with the therapeutic and the counseling to help get everything back together.
Well, now, in these situations, is there sometimes an element of the person where they may blame themselves? Maybe I could have done something differently, or why did it happen to them and not me? I mean, I've heard of soldiers with that, and of course I know parents feel that way. Oftentimes when something happens with their children, they wonder, you know, why not me instead of them, what could I have done differently? I should have, you know.
That's another good example of something that would happen that would cause that. And, you know, with post-traumatic stress disorder, you really have to kind of break it down. I think there's 4 or 5 different criteria that you have to meet to be able to actually diagnose PTSD. And, you know, it has to last. The symptoms that are causing you conflict have to last at least 3 months. And then, you know, during that 3 months, you know, a lot of people will say, well, how can you really tell in 3 months? Are you going to treat these people within the 3 months, or are you going to wait for 3 months or 4 months and then see what happens? Well, if they're having problems that are significant enough, then we would treat them as maybe with generalized anxiety disorder. And then after finding out exactly what did happen and knowing if it happened and continues to happen and those feelings are something we can't really just kind of put closure onto, then we'll make the diagnosis of PTSD.
Aaron, if someone's been involved in a motor vehicle accident, what should they do?
The most important thing is to get the proper medical care and treatment. And simultaneously with that, or as soon as possible, seek the advice of an experienced personal injury lawyer and let them deal with the insurance company.
For more professional legal advice and insight, watch Legal View, Sunday nights at 10:30 on Fox 34.
And Lynn, something interesting to me that you said a little earlier was that someone can get better and then all of a sudden have a flare-up later.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine something would trigger that flare-up or that recurrence.
Mm-hmm. And again, that could happen a lot. And I'll tell you this story real quick, that, you know, a gentleman that was in the Vietnam War, wherever he was at, he watched children eat roaches. And that was the only kind of food they had. And so he called it roach pudding. And, you know, it does sound really bad and it's gross, and why can you even imagine your child eating roaches, you know? Mm-hmm. But at the area where he was placed, that happened quite a lot. And I had been treating him for different things with anxiety, and he came in one morning and he had been eating at a local place here and had seen a roach run across the wall. And he just got, you know, he broke out in sweat and he was trembling and, you know, just really highly traumatized. And when he came in, I said, what is wrong, you know? And he said, you know, he told me the story again. I already knew about the roach pie or whatever, but seeing that brought that back. And he had been doing well as far as his, you know, military issues. But
Is there any way of knowing or predicting if someone may have a recurrence?
well, after you go through so much, you know, a length of period of time of therapy, of counseling and possibly medication or both again, some people actually do just get over that and they're able to go on, and it may not ever come back up unless there's something that's very similar that happens to them or a close relative or loved one again, and then it will trigger it again. But sometimes if you can really get to the point of it and find out what the major issue is, you can probably, you know, straighten it out to where it's, you know, you can deal with it and the person can go back and live a normal life of driving in the rain, you know, being around boats and skiing and that kind of thing.
Roaches?
Roaches, yeah.
Well, you know, Lynn, I don't want to play armchair therapist here, but I'm sure sometimes these situations also can lead into some depression if a person is used to getting in their car and just taking it for granted, going wherever they want to go, and now they're tensed up even at the thought of driving. Then will that lead into some depression type issues as well?
Yeah, again, anxiety disorders is the primary core of PTSD. And sometimes we call it comorbid, like two things happen, but which one of them happened first? Did the accident cause me to be depressed because now I can't get out and go anywhere? Or was I depressed and that's why I had the accident? So then if you're in y'all's situation, you would want to go back and check those people's records to see if that had ever happened.
Sure.
And if they had a history of depression, you know, and they had continued care, then they had an accident such as this and it made things worse, then you would know probably that the accident enhanced what they already had, but the fear or the phobia is what you're talking about of not doing or not going is caused from the accident itself.
Well, you know, something we see from time to time, whether it's a car wreck or a motorcycle wreck or an on-the-job injury, and it, you know, it could be a man or a woman, but oftentimes, David and I, it seems to occur more with men. You know, you have a man that's either injured on the job or in a motorcycle wreck, and he's used to getting up and going to work every day, providing for his family, and now all of a sudden, you know, he's sitting at home waiting on a knee surgery or whatever the case may be, and you can just tell when you talk to them, it's almost like it's not the same person. Like there's a depression there, just a lull in their appearance and their personality.
Right. And if the accident happened at work, you know, then, you know, the main thing that you're looking for is what happened, where did it happen, what caused this to happen to you. And, you know, now I'm feeling worthless, you know, I can't provide for my family, my wife's having worked 3 jobs, so, you know, I'm just a bum, I'm no good, you know, I want to have feelings of hurting myself, cuttings, suicidal thoughts, those type things.
Or drinking.
Yeah,
you know,
alcohol,
whatever, you know.
and drug abuse. A lot of times with what you're talking about, they'll be placed on medication, and for the knee or for the back, and I'm sure you know about that type thing, and that medication becomes an addictive type issue, and so you have another thing. It's almost like you have a circle, and you got one thing here, and here, and then all of a sudden, you know, it all started from this one.
And kind of a domino effect.
4 things you shouldn't do if you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident.
Don't face the insurance company alone. Don't ignore your injuries. Don't hide old injuries and accidents from your lawyer. And don't rush to settle. So it's important that a client have the resources devoted to their case.
For more professional legal advice and insight, watch Legal View, Sunday nights at 10:30 on Fox 34.
There are different degrees of post-traumatic stress disorder, some more severe than others. But you said that to have a diagnosis of PTSD, that it has to last for 3 months.
Yeah, well, there's always a criteria to meet.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is that criteria?
The actual criteria, you know, basically says that you have to meet the certain things within a realm of circumstances, and which basically says you have to experience, witness, or be confronted with an event or injury that causes you to be fearful for yourself or for someone else. And then, you know, there's things that make it even like A, B, C, and D. You know, you would have reoccurring thinking, reoccurring thoughts. You'd have bad dreams. You'd wake up in the middle of the night sweating. You'd have the flashbacks like we talked about earlier, acting as if you're feeling that it's going to happen again. Sometimes this happens a lot with, and I'm going to go off on this, sexual assault in the workplace, that women have a fear of, or men I suppose, but women mainly have a fear of men, or of being wherever they were at. Like, let's just say in a dental office, you know, if that happened to someone, whether or not they were an employee or a patient, they would have a fear, and it would become like I'm not going back in a dental office. And the smells from the dental office or wherever.
And I guess
Influences
would that be called a phobia? You know, where it gets to the point that
Yeah.
you're that fearful.
It would be a phobia, but it's basically, you know, again, why did it happen to begin with? So you got the beginning of this started this, I hate to say the chicken and the egg thing, but
Sure.
but the depression and the anxiety, which one caused me the depression? Was it the finding out that I've got a terminal illness? Is that what made me depressed, the medical condition? Or was it the fact that knowing that I had the medical condition and I wasn't going to get better, so that made me depressed?
So if
Sure.
you can rule out a pre-existing depression, then you can
You certainly, yeah.
you can say that it was the post-traumatic stress
Mhm.
disorder or that event that led to the worst event.
You were asking about, the different stages, and it's basically called acute if the symptoms last less than 3 months, okay? We say it's got to at least have a 3-month period for us to be able to look at it. So if in 3 months, we've talked about it and everything's kind of gotten better, or gone the other way, then that would be classified as an acute stage. Chronic is if it's lasts 3 months or more. And then you sometimes have a delayed onset, is what you were asking earlier about what if things were okay. I was in the military and then all of a sudden something happened.
Lynn, I'm just thinking there has to be some other things, like maybe natural disasters. Like I know we're all familiar with the tornadoes that went through Tuscaloosa. If a family or a person experienced something like that, could that sometimes trigger post-traumatic stress syndrome?
Definitely. And I'm sure everyone remembers the Enterprise issue with the school system, and there were many children that were trapped under the lockers and thought they were dying. There were several deaths, of course, and there were several things with students who lost really good friends that were traumatized because they were right there too. And like you said earlier, why didn't it happen to me? So being there, witnessing that, and seeing the things that happened actually can cause the post-traumatic stress disorder as well. Natural disasters, tsunamis, floodings, losing homes, burglaries, where someone comes into your home and they may take your things. Christmas is a big deal because you may have stuff stored in your home or in your car, and people break in and they take that, and that becomes a thought process in your mind that, oh, well, this could happen again.
Lynn, Aaron and I talk a good deal about working with a network of professionals and then treating post-traumatic stress disorder. Do you find that to be true in your practice?
In fact, I get a lot of referrals from different type of medical professionals. Someone may have been in a car wreck and they may have had the airbag deployed, so they may have problems with breathing, or they may have rib damage or something, and so they'll go to an MD, and the medical doctor will treat that and say, okay, well, you've got a little bit of problem in your neck, so you may need to go see a chiropractor or a massage therapist and see what's going on with that. And so it's almost like a circle. There's somewhere along the way somebody else is going to refer when they finally look at it and say, there's something else here that we're just not seeing because this person's not getting better. Physically, they may be making some progress, but there's still something not right. And so then they'll send them to the psychiatrists or the therapists, counselors for therapy or medication. And then we continue to work in that same circle with the same doctors and professionals that send them to us to help them understand so that they can continue to work with them on their medical problems.
Well, Lynn, if someone watching our show tonight wants to get in touch with you and talk about issues like this, talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, how can they reach you?
Okay. I'm located at 256 Honeysuckle Road, Suite 20, and that's in Brightleaf Court. And the name of my business is Professional Counseling and Consulting Services, LLC. And I have a partner that works with me that's a gentleman that has a great deal of experience in alcohol and drug. And he actually has just reproduced a CD that's called Silence Has Meaning. And that's a 2 CD set that helps with visual imagery and relaxation. And so we use that when we're working with post-traumatic stress as well, because it helps people calm down and be able to walk through some things in relaxing situation.
And what's your phone number?
334-446-5655. 600.
Well, this has certainly been informative, and we appreciate you being with us tonight, Lynn.
I've enjoyed it.
David, what types of damages are available in a personal injury case?
Well, payment or compensation for your medical expenses and future medical expenses, lost earnings and future lost earnings, pain and suffering and mental anguish that you've suffered, the loss of consortium of a spouse, and in certain cases, punitive damages.
For more professional legal advice and insight, watch Legal View, Sunday nights at 10:30 on Fox 34.
Well, we're going to talk about insurance bad faith. David, could you give the viewers just an overview, kind of a primer on insurance bad faith cases and what they are?
Yeah, in tonight's legal brief, we wanted to talk about this issue. In a bad faith failure to pay an insurance claim case, an insurance company would be liable to its insured if it refuses to properly investigate a claim or pay that claim. There may be a situation where someone gets sued for causing a car wreck or for any number of other reasons, and the insurance company refuses to pay that claim. The insurance company might have to pay the insured for that loss and more for punitive damages for failure to properly investigate and pay the claim if it turns out that the insurance company was wrong in its denial of that claim. Something important to remember is if an insurance company refuses to honor its contract with you, the insurance company will be held to the reason it gives you for refusing coverage. So if you have received a letter rejecting your claim from your insurance company, be sure to hold that letter. You may need to talk with an attorney about it. Now, in most cases, Aaron, when someone gets sued or gets a claim made against them, if the insurance company feels that they may not have to cover that claim, they're usually not going to deny the claim outright, but instead they're going to assign an attorney to investigate it and start defending it under what they call a reservation of rights. They're reserving the right to deny the claim in the future if they find that it was not covered by the policy. So that's usually the wise choice for the insurance company to make, because it's a rare situation where the company can just say outright that there's no coverage.
Without some kind of investigation.
That's right. They have to do an investigation. And under Alabama law, insurance policies are to be construed in favor of the insured and against the insurance company if there's any ambiguity. So, again, if you've received a letter rejecting your claim from your insurance company, don't take that as necessarily being the end of the road, but seek legal advice.
David and I would like to thank Lynn Suggs for being on the show, and thanks for watching the Legal View.
We'll see you next week.
To submit legal questions you may have, email to aaron@hoggartlandlawfirm.com. Thanks for watching. This has been a production of the Hogg & Gartland Law Firm and WDFX-TV, Fox 34.
The Legal View with Hogg and Gartland.